Welcome back to A Moment in History. I'm Seth Udinsky. In today's segment, we travel back to the early 6th century BC to Israel. The Kingdom of Israel, once a superpower, had fallen into deep decay. In the 6th century BC, a new superpower, the Babylonian Empire, rose to the forefront of world dominance and sacked the capital city of Jerusalem, ending the Kingdom Age and sending the people of God into exile. To understand the significance of this battle, we need to explore the complicated history of the people of Israel, chronicled in the Old Testament during the 2,000 years before the birth of Christ. Israel was God's chosen people, and He promised to bless the entire world through them. However, God's people consistently fell into a nasty cycle of sinfulness as follows. God would bless them, and in their prosperity they would become proud and rebel against God. Then God would punish them for their wickedness, and in their brokenness and grief they would repent and turn back to God, only to rebel again later. In the 11th century BC, the people demanded a king, and God gave them one. David, the second king of Israel, was by far the most prosperous and righteous, and under his rule, Israel flourished. Israel flourished under David's son Solomon as well, but after Solomon, the kingdom split in two and was never reunited again. The northern kingdom of Israel completely abandoned God and decayed almost instantly. In the late 8th century BC, they were annihilated by the Assyrians. The royal line of David continued through the southern kingdom of Judah. The southern kingdom enjoyed a handful of righteous kings, but for the most part, they were also utterly wicked. Finally, in their wickedness, God handed them over to the Babylonian Empire, the most powerful empire in the world at this time. And in 586 BC, King Nebuchadnezzar sacked Jerusalem and deposed the last king of Judah, Zedekiah. He destroyed the glorious Temple of Solomon and pillaged its lavish contents. The people of Israel were scattered into exile. Some were allowed to return and would eventually rebuild the city of Jerusalem, but the kingdom would never be the same again. God's people would cry out to Him, and for 400 years, God would remain silent. But He would not remain silent forever, for at the beginning of the 1st century AD, a direct descendant of King David would be born in poverty and obscurity in the little town of Bethlehem. His name was Jesus of Nazareth, and through this baby boy who would live and die and rise again, God would keep His promise to bless the entire world. Thanks so much for joining me once again for A Moment in History. Thanks for watching this video. For more content like this, make sure to check out some of the other videos we have on the channel.